All right, hello everybody, good afternoon or good evening whenever you're watching this. And here is the review for our midterm. So make sure that you have the paper out, make some annotations on it and study it up, okay? So that way you guys are gonna be successful. Remember, the goal is to make sure you guys understand how we do things and to correlate the questions and to go as fast as you can on the test, right? So number one, if R is the speed of two cars, T is the time, and it has the expression here, 2 times R times T. What does it represent? As you guys go through, one thing I started realizing as the day progressed here is that if you think about you and a buddy living, if you live here in Gilbert and you have a buddy that lives in Phoenix and you want to meet somebody, you meet what's called halfway. So if you're meeting halfway, you wouldn't actually be doubling this time, you'd be cutting in half. So that instance, if you're traveling to each other, you guys know that it can't be letters B or it can't be letter D, because those are traveling towards each other. So you know you're traveling farther away from each other. So what you have to do is then ask yourself, is it the first equation right here where they're traveling twice as fast as one another, or is it a distance between two vehicles in opposite directions in the same rate? Well, the answer, ladies and gentlemen, is C, because this is only one equation when this would be 2. Where you have one traveling twice as fast as the other, it would be RT plus 2 times RT. Okay, so understand that one. Number 2, Parsons is training for a marathon. Read the question. As we go through it, I kind of started talking to students about understanding that this equation can be rewritten. All right, do the math on it and let's think about it. So if N represents the total miles run during the week, we would put 45 minus 45 over 10 plus 1. And what does that equal? Well, that's 0. So 0 plus 1 is 1. And this means 1 week. Okay? So if you did a second week, it's 45 plus 10. So you put that in like this over 10. So the next week you would do the setup. This would be 10. So 10 over 10 is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. And it'd be week 2. So as you guys see, as we progress, what does this actually represent? Well, this expression is not the number of miles he ran each day. It would actually be the total number of weeks he trained, okay? Because that's what we're talking about here, all right? If you guys look at this question, it's asking you, and your answer comes out to be the weeks. Number 3, Emma is saving. So here's our dollar amounts, 5, 30%, and 5,000. So she needs to save 5. She saved 3. That's where this 2,000 comes from. Now, what she's trying to do is put 30% of each paycheck away. And she wants to make this equal to 1 because she's trying to make it an even number, okay, where it's a solid number of, if she wants to save 2,000 and that's her goal, then she's putting the equation over like this, so we want it to equal 1, right? Anything less than 1 means she hasn't saved up enough. Anything above 1 means she's actually saved more than enough. So that's her main goal. So when you're looking at this, it can't be the total amount of the paycheck because that just doesn't make any sense. The amount she saved from each paycheck, well, you would be able to do that with paycheck 1, but paycheck 2 or 3, you wouldn't be able to know how much she saved from each one. So you're left with, she still needs to save to reach 5,000 or the number of paychecks. Well, our number equals 1. It doesn't equal 5,000. If it reached 5,000, that's what number would go there. That would be the answer. But since it's not, it's D for the number of paychecks. 4, I talked about this in class when you guys are going through it. The only reason I want you to focus on this is this part of the equation, okay? That you guys understand what the area of a triangle is, so that maybe when you see something like that on the midterm, you would pick which shape has that area, okay? So that's the focus. I don't know the answer to this question. I'm pretty sure it's A or C. I think it's actually A, but that's not my concern. My concern isn't A, or actually I think it's C. My concern isn't C, okay? My concern is this part right here to make sure you understand what we're going with, okay? That you would look for this on the midterm, and then you would pick whichever one that has a larger number. And you'll see what I'm talking about. Because make sure you know what the radius of a circle is. All right, 5. You, ladies and gentlemen, would, since we don't know how to do something like this, you would actually just graph this in decimals. Okay, so I already have it pulled up. Here's my equation. You'd pull it up in decimals. You would graph it. Then you would graph the first answer. and see if the line matches. It does not, okay? Then you would do letter B, letter C, and then finally you would do letter D. And ladies and gentlemen, when I do it, you can see the line turns from red to green, so we know that the answer is in fact D. What I want you to do on your notes is after you circle D, is would be put Desmos, or you would put graph it on Desmos. Okay, or you just put graph it, it's up to you. Just understand that philosophy. That's the easiest way to answer this. 6, you don't have time to solve this for X. Okay, you don't have time in my class. So what you do is you go into Desmos and you graph it. So here's the equation, you graph it, and then you make sure you zoom out because it's asking where is the x-axis crossing, which is the horizontal surface. It's -20. There's your answer right there, and you would put graph it. Just so you guys know when you're studying something what you're supposed to be looking at. Number 7, same setup. We're looking for the x-intercept. The x-intercept is the horizontal line right here. So turn that one off. Here it is right here. You turn it on, ladies and gentlemen. Zoom out one more bit. Click the line. It'll automatically give you the intersection. It's -50. Notice it's asking for the x, not the y. So please don't get confused on those. All right, it is -50, and you would graph it. Please make sure you understand the setups, okay? Number 8, stores offering a discount on several items of 30%. So what you need to know, if you pay full price for something, you're paying 100%. But what we want to deal with today is we want to deal with the decimal equivalence of it so that we can do some addition and subtraction with it. So we're going to convert this to a decimal, which is 1.00. Now, what you also need to understand is that it says subtract 30%. So if I were to subtract 30%, you would actually need to change that to 0.30. And you would get up 70.7, which is 70%. Now, here's where you guys need to understand. Then you got to increase the new price by 8%. One thing that I've come to realize is that you guys don't know a lot about finances. 8% is the equivalent of 0.08. And you are not adding this, ladies and gentlemen, you are multiplying, okay? In order to find tax on something, you multiply it. When you put this in a calculator, you get 0.056, and you would just add these together. So it'll be, 756. So the answer is C. Just say, so for example, on the midterm, we're not adding. If on the midterm it said 20% discount, and then you add back into a 5%, the answer is not 80 and then plus 5 to 85. Make sure you understand that you need to do the percentage part of it, okay? It's different like that. Number 9, Abby was asked to solve the following problem and show her work. What step is incorrect? So as we go through this, make sure you guys understand distribution, right? Negative and negative, correct. Next, you would combine like terms. So 4 and -6 is -2. That's right. Then you would add 12 to both sides, and you would end up with 22. Then you would divide by -2. And when you divide by -2, ladies and gentlemen, this should be a negative. Since it is not, the step that is incorrect is step 4. Follow through with your procedures. Which method represents a correct way to solve this equation? Now, this is a weird equation, but you got to remember PEMDAS. First thing is parentheses. Okay, we can't solve anything within this parentheses. You don't have anything to do. Next is exponents. You need to get rid of the exponent. But here's where I draw your attention to actual questions itself. So let's look at this real quick. Letter A, multiply 3 by 2. Letter C, square the quantity. Letter B, square 3. Letter D, square 3. What do I want you to do first? Well, if you square 3 here, then you technically would square x, but that doesn't make any sense because that's not what this equation represents. It actually is supposed to look like this, where it'd be x plus 3, and then it would be x plus 3. So you're not technically squaring that, a 3. You actually would multiply it together, and then you got to do what's a distribution. So we haven't talked much about this in class, but you do what the FOIL method is, which I'm pretty sure you guys have already learned. So your answer to this would be C, and then who cares about the rest? Because you're squaring a quantity, okay? Number 11, Which method represents the best way to clear fractions in an equation? Well, we've talked about this before. What you're doing is you're trying to get rid of a fraction. So you look at your answers. So you got multiply, multiply, divide. Well, you really don't divide by a fraction. And then multiply both sides by 3. Now, if I multiply by 3 here, is that going to cancel this 2 out? The answer is no, it's not. So that's not a legitimate answer. Okay, and neither is 6. You don't divide. So you got 6. So we know we're going to multiply by 6. Do you do it to only one side, or do you have to do it to every side? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've talked about this before. What you do to one, you got to do to the other. So it would be A. Next, number 12. This is more of a Desmos graphing situation on this. And so what you guys need to know is that f of x is the same as saying y is greater than x. And then I'd want you to put this equation in. Now, here's where the struggle is with this when we're talking about. Where every y value has to be greater than x. Okay, so when I turn that on, you get this nice little graph right here. Where every y value is greater than x. So for example, if x was, so I'll go right here on this graph. If x was 20, okay, y equals 20 on here, right? But what you're trying to do is tell me if x equals 20, what is the actual equation going to be worth? So if I have x minus 6, so if I go in here and I go on Desmos and I were to graph, so let me drop this down a little bit. If I were to graph x minus 6, here's my problem, is that this is a negative value right here. So my x value is, so for example, like right here, my x is 10, my other answer is 8. What I want to make sure you guys understand with this particular equation is that it's talking about how do you get the value of x greater than, okay? And so what you would actually do with this is understand that you're increasing, you would want to increase the value of x. Now, this is not increasing the value of y. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is if I plugged a number in here, like say I plugged in a 4, okay? If I plugged a 4 in here, or 4 is a bad example. If I plugged a 15 in here, okay? 15 minus 6 is 9. Is 15 greater than 9? The answer is no, it's not. But if I plugged a 15 in here, I would get 21. So that works. If I plugged a 15 in here, 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. That's a smaller number. It doesn't work. And then there's the negative. 15, if I put in here, makes it bigger, which is nice. But what happens if I put a negative number in there? If I put a negative number, so if I put negative 10 in here, then what happens is my answer is going to be what? Negative 40. Is negative 40 a greater number than negative 10? The answer is no. So the only thing it can be is the letter B, because it's always adding onto the letter x. So understand that philosophy. Given the function, select the inequalities that are true. All right, so we haven't really dealt with this too much, but I'd want you to graph it in Desmos, okay? When you graph it, I want to show you guys a table setup that you can do. Now, there's one of two things, okay? First and foremost, as you're doing this, let me see if I can pull this off here. I might be able to. All right, so what we have is, let me do the split screen. So this is going to get really small. Hopefully you guys can read this, but I want to make sure you guys understand and can read and see the setup, so I can do this at the same time. Okay, so what we have is we're looking at x squared plus 2x minus 3. This equation right here. All right, what it is it's a quadratic equation. What you want to do is find out when x is 0, what is the value of y. So at 0 is my value negative 3, okay? The answer is no. At 0, actually the answer is what? At 0 is the value negative 3. The answer is actually what? It is a yes. Where's my eraser? All right, so the answer to this one is A is an answer. All right, at the value of 1, is my answer 0? The actual answer is yes. Okay, so you would circle that one too. At h is negative 3, so I come over here to negative 3. Is my value 0? The answer is yes. Okay, then you go negative 1. Is negative 1 the value of negative 1? Is it negative 4? The answer is actually on this one, yes. And then the last one, ladies and gentlemen, is at number 4. So if I go x is 4, is it 29? If you guys look on this, when it's 4, the actual answer is 21. So it is not an answer. So my first 4 are answers. So what you're doing is you're trying to find the x value here, and then you drag on your equation to make sure your answer is actually on the outside. So it looks like A, B, C, and D are the answer. The only one that is not is E. All right, next, x plus 6 cubed. Now, if you can't do this in decimals, please ask me. But what it is you actually put in the brackets, okay, x, put a bracket in x plus 6, close it off, and then you hit this button right here, and it jumps up this little blank spot, and then you put a 3 in. And here it is right here. And it's only asking for 1 point. When h is -5, which means that x is -5. So I'm at -6 right here. So you drag on the line till you get to -5, and the answer is 1. So my answer is 1. All right, so graph it in Desmos, drag your finger on the line, figure it out. It's pretty simple. All right, let me bring this back up to full screen now, and let's talk about set notation. So we're now going to talk about set. So what I want to make sure you understand with this is which one of these functions is set notation. So what it means is that whatever value is on the outside needs to be the same value on the inside. So this is the same as saying, if I didn't say y here, I said f of x. That would be the same as this function where they both match up, right? So that's set notation. Instead of saying y equals, you say f of x equals 2x. That's set notation. So what you need to do is find out where the similarities are. So, for example, this is f of z, but in here it's an x, so it can't be this. We're looking for set notation, so it's not that. And then you're left with these two. The f of x should be an x here. It's not. The only one that has both letters in the same value is letter D. Does it matter that the value's changed? Not in this case. It does not matter, okay? So make sure you understand that. 16, which graph represents a function? We have talked about what a function is. Function passes a vertical line test. So what you do is you start drawing lines on this. Does that pass the test? Yes. That, no, because it crosses it more than once. That's a no, and that is a vertical line. So your answer is graph 1. 17, what restrictions, if any, do the values of A, B, and C are necessary? So here's what I want to make sure you guys understand. A, B, and C, and D, they are all different numbers. So let's plug in a number. 1, 2, let's go, just go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so if I do 1, 5, 2, 5, 3, 5, and then you would do 4, 5. All right, there are our functions. Now I want you to draw a picture and graph it. So I'm going 1 over 5 up, 2 over 5 up, 3 over 5 up, 4 over 5 up. Ladies and gentlemen, if I do that, is that a function? The answer is what? They must each represent the value 5. They must all represent the same value. They must be distinct in value. The relation is a function regardless of the values that A, B, C, and D represent. That is the most logical answer because, ladies and gentlemen, it is a true statement. 18, you are going to want to draw a picture. Okay, so on your picture, you guys are going to want to label these out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, I got crowded there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So best way of doing this is to draw a picture of it. Get a different, for me, I can get a different color. For you, just make sure you do a good enough graph. -6, -4. So I go over 6, down 4, roughly right about here. -4, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3. So I'd be like right about here. -2, 1. You would go here to here. You're fine, bud. And then you go 0 to 2. So 0 up 2. And then here's where it gets interesting. Over 1, up 5, over 1, up 6. Now my graph is crooked, but what happens here? Is this a function? Remember, does it pass a vertical line test? At this point, ladies and gentlemen, the answer is what? No, because the line passes through both dots. So since it's a no, why is it? Is it no because there are two y values for the same x, or are there two x values for the same y? Well, the answer is C. because there are two y values for the same x. So make sure you understand that philosophy and setup. 19, solutions of the quadratic. Graph it. Go in here. There's the solutions, ladies and gentlemen. Bring this bad boy out. My solutions are 2 and negative 7. So make sure you guys know that it's 2 and negative 7. There's the answer B, okay? On the test, it'll say something similar to this. It might ask you what to put a number in. If it's a positive number, you'd put it 2. If it asks you for a negative number, you'd put negative 7. Simple as that. Mike has $34 in his wallet. He has one $20 bill. Okay, so let's think about this real quick. If he has $34 and he has a 20 in there, how much has he got left? That'd be 14. All right, so he's got 14. Now let's continue. He has twice as many $1 bills, so 2 times the amount of $1 bills as he does for $5 bills. Okay, so what you're trying to do is ask yourself, ladies and gentlemen, what would be, and then it says, how many $1 bills does Mike have for this particular problem? Well, what you'd want to do is ask yourself, okay, if you have one $5 bill and you double it, that would be, so if I have a $5 bill and then I double that, so I have 2 ones, that would be 7, right? So that's not what we're looking for here. We're looking for 14. So if I had 2 $5 bills, that would be what, 10 bucks? And then if I have 2 of these, I would need to have 4 of these, because that's doubling it. So that'd be 4, and that's what we're looking for is 14. So that's D. Remember, this is an increment. So say if I moved up 12 more, you'd want to make sure you understand the setup between, what's the difference between 4, 8, 12, and 20. Think about the increments in dollars, okay? You'd want to keep it on simple terms. So if you have one $5 bill, you have 2 ones. If you have two $5, you have 4. 3 $5, you'd have 6. What would that be? 4 $5 bills, you'd have 8. Understand the differences and just do the currencies like that. All right, the height of a triangle is 6 less than 1/3 of the length of the base, and the area of the triangle is 60 square centimeters. What is the length of the base of the triangle? Oh my goodness. Okay, so we've got a triangle. All right, the height of the triangle is 6 less. Sorry, that's the bell for the period. The area of the triangle is 6 less. So what I want to make sure you guys understand is when you're doing this philosophy here, you've got to make sure you set up that you know your area is going to equal 60. Okay? And then if it's the height of a triangle is 6 less than, so the height is 6 less than, so it would be x minus 6, 1/3 the length of the base. Then you, ladies and gentlemen, you set this equation up. Now, I'm not very good at these, and I understand that setup. I'll try to do a better job in class of explaining this, so hopefully you make it. But I will say the answer is D on this one. The main reason when you would set this up is to make sure you guys do the philosophy. I'll make sure I get everything right. If you miss 21, that's going to be one of those things where I'll make sure in class that we talk about area real quick before the day of the test. Scale shows perfectly balanced. Each of the 5 chess pieces weigh 10 grams. So here's the 5. So this would be 10, 10, 10, and 10. And then over here you got 10. What must the checkers weigh? All right, so what you guys need to do is set up a problem, right? So you have two different equations. You would have 40 plus x, because we don't know what this weighs, equals, and then you would have, how many of these do you have? You have 2x plus 10. There is your equation, okay? I did that by thinking, adding these up, plus another weight, right? Because we don't know what that weight is. 2 of these weights, plus 10 there. And then you just do your equation, solve for x. So when you're doing this, ladies and gentlemen, you guys know the drill. It doesn't matter which way you go. I'm gonna go left to right on this one. So negative x here, so that way it simplifies that. So if I move this x over here, I've got to move this 10 over to here. If I do that, 40 minus 10 is 30. These cancel out. x equals, make sure you guys set it up. Label out the pieces if you have to, and on a piece of scratch paper. All right, 23. A 120-inch ribbon is cut into 3 pieces. The first piece is twice as long as the second piece. And the third piece is 3 times as long as the second piece. What is the length of the largest piece of ribbon? There's your equation. Combine like terms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It'll be 6x equals 120. Divide by 6. Ladies and gentlemen, you'd end up with the answer of what? X equals 20. Okay? That is what x equals. My largest piece is what? Because it's asking you for the largest piece. My largest piece is 3 times the length. So it would be 20 times 3, which is 60. Do not give me the answer of x equals 20. I don't care. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for what the longest length would be. Izzy makes $28.40 per day plus tips. Average tips 19% of the total amount of money spent. If customers spend $200, what is their daily income? Okay, so we know we got $200 here. Everything is set up that way. What's the rest of the equation? Well, we know she makes this per day. So if she makes this per day, that's the standard she makes. And then everything is added into it. Because if you look, everything's addition. So it can't be this one because of the multiplication. It can't be this one because of the weird multiplication. Now you're left with 2 options here. 19%, remember, is represented as a number as a decimal. Answer is D. What is the y? Which is the y-intercept of the line representing the equation? Ladies and gentlemen, you would graph it on Desmos. Okay? Zoom out a little bit. The y-intercept is 0, -8, 0, B. 26. Which graph represents the following equation? Well, I know I could graph this in Desmos, or I could just switch the signs. So this is going to be positive, that's negative, and that's positive. So if I know that, then I know I'm going at +3. So it's not this one because that's 1. It's not this one because it's +3. So I got 2 options here. Actually, this looks like it's crossing at 1, 2, 3.5. This one crosses at 1, 2, 3. And it's got a negative slope, down 3/1. There we go. Simple enough. Not too difficult. Read a graph. What is the graph a correct representation of? So you put 3x plus 4y equals 8. So in here, let me change this up because I did not put this in. All right, so it would be, oops, went too far. It would be 3x plus 4y, and I believe I said equals 12. Let me make sure that's right. Oh, nope, equals 8. All right, is this a correct representation? You click on your graph, ladies and gentlemen, and you tell me, is it correct? So looking at my intercepts, I've got a 2 and a 2.667. On here, ladies and gentlemen, I got 2 because it's 1, 2, but the intersect is at 4. So is this a correct representation? The answer is no. All right, the main reason is because what? The x-intercept is off. So what I'd want to make sure is not correct. I'd want to make sure you guys understand this setup, okay? Please make sure you look at these and understand. If you see a question like this, that you graph it in Desmos, you compare the graph to see where the mistake is, okay? It's not that challenge, you just got to make sure you take the time to do it. All right, undefined slope. We've talked about undefined slope. It is a vertical line, okay? If it is a vertical line, ladies and gentlemen, it cannot be these two. So the question is it y equals 4 or is it x equals 2? So let's find out. Now my point is 2, 4. Okay, so I know I'm going 2/4 up. And I'm going to go y equals 4, x equals 2. So down here, I'm going to go y equals 4. And then the next one is going to be x equals 2. And then you tell me, ladies and gentlemen, which one of these actually crosses at the point of 2, -4. Well, they both cross at 2 over 4, sorry, not negative, but only one is undefined, and it is the green one. So the green one is x equals 2. So this is if you don't know the difference between x and y, okay? If this said 0 slope, it would be letter A. This says undefined, it's letter B. Graph it, okay? And that would be another thing you would say is graph it in Desmos, okay? Just graph it as an answer. All right, 29. Which of the equation represents the slope? All right, so here's where I want to make sure you guys understand. This is the formula. Y minus y1 equals m, and then it's x minus x1. We've already done these in class. Make sure you guys understand. So it's y minus, always, 6 equals, and then it's my slope of -2, and then it's x minus -2. So you would rewrite it, or you would combine. So I'm just going to combine these two together like that. So there's a big plus sign, it's giant. Do your distribution. So y minus 6, -2x minus 4. I distributed that in. Okay, make sure you have it. Plus 6. So that would be y equals -2x plus 2. And the answer is B. Check your math, make sure you're doing it right. 30. Oh, let me go back real quick. 28, 29. Okay, good. Just making sure. All right, 30, last page. What is the equation of the line that passes through these points? Well, you guys got to remember, you first have to find the slope. So you remember on us, we do this, and then I'm going to go 8 and 8, because it doesn't matter which point, so I'm going to pick that one first, and then you would do the sign. So y goes on top, the x goes on the bottom. Since it goes set up like that again, I combine these two together and add a plus. So this is going to be 8 minus 3, which is 5, 8 plus 2, which is 10. So my slope is 1/2. Okay, so the good news is my slope is 1/2. I can get rid of D and B because they're negative. So now you fill in your spots. So I'm going to do -2, 3 with the y1. So it's y minus 3 equals 1/2 x, and then it's -2, like that, minus the negative. Combine it together, and then you do your distribution. So it's y minus 3 equals 1/2 x. That would be plus 1. And if you add 3 to both sides, you'd end up with a plus 4. So your answer is C. 31. Graph this equation. Okay. One thing I wanted to make sure, I had a student basically tell me, I think this is wrong, Mr. Stiger, and then I put it back in the equation and I am right. I didn't screw this up. I thought it was wrong. Our slope is at 2. This is what type of slope? Positive or negative? If you look at it, it's positive. So if you know it's positive, it can't be these two. All right? And then you have to ask yourself, what is the slope? Are we going up 2 over 3, or are we going up 3 over 2? Well, the answer is we're going up 2 over 3 to get to that answer. So it's B. 32, what is the complete solution of the following equation? You would just graph it. Okay, when you graph it, ladies and gentlemen, down here is my equation right here. Now I gotta zoom out on this. I would want you to graph it in Desmos. And when you graph it in Desmos, should be able to click the line. It's not letting me click it. Click the line, sucker. Uh-oh, hold on. See if I'm messing this up. It's possible that I might not be able to, but it's fine. I can't click the line, but I can see. So what you need to know is, what are your solutions?